Well, here I have what I guess I'm going to call part 2 of my editing process. In part 1, what I've done was line up a tracked sky with a static foreground, and that's what I did in the video before this. And what we did there was basically, this is the raw data, 6 minutes total from 3 images at 2 minutes each, which gives you that, it's masked out now, but gives you the blurry edge, and now we got both together. What I want to do is see how well these actually blended together. I'm just going to quickly throw on an adjustment layer with contrast over what it's looking at both of these layers. So if I take the contrast on this, oops, sorry, you're up there now. If I take the contrast and just crank that to 100 and see, you could see I'm not seeing any real differences where we did end up blending what is the stacked and the tracked together. They flow together seamlessly. So that's good. So I'm just going to delete this layer here. And I had also done some work in the background where I had, well, we'll get there. But what I want to do now on what is the base layer for the foreground, these were all loaded as smart objects. I want to go into this one. These are both the same. They're just copies. Go into this smart object. I just want to open up these shadows back here a little bit, just to make it a little bit less black and kind of move it into that area. So what I'm just going to really crank up the shadows on this. Actually, I'm not going to do it here. I'm going to do it on a foreground layer. So let's mask it out. We'll say sky, selecting the sky, invert. Now we have just the foreground. That way we know we won't mess up any of our previous blends, if you would. So I'm just going to take this, shadows. Yeah, I'm going to basically bring it right up to 100 so we have the detail here. I don't want to lose what we have here, so I'm going to go ahead and brush out that here. So I think I can do that here, minus with a brush, and we'll take out some of that right here. Yes, that's what we want to do. So I want to remove it from this up here to keep the contrast. Let's make the flow of that brush a little heavier. And get that little bit of contrast lines back in those rocks there. There we go. Okay, that looks pretty good. So I'm going to say OK. That takes it back into Photoshop, and now that layer is there. I'm going to double check here, make sure I guess I shouldn't have deleted it. Contrast, we'll take a look at that contrast. Crank that again. We are still looking good. No issues with the blend on that. So actually I'll just turn that off for now. So from here, we can start doing heavier edits. I'm going to do a stamp visible. Command Option Shift E. Can't remember what that is in Windows, but you can figure it out. So now we have both of those things happening here. So I did a little bit of work in the background previously, where I had taken this same type of layer, a stamped visible layer, although I didn't have this shadow done, but it doesn't matter. And I ran that through Starnet++ to get a starless version, because how I like to run that, to use that layer. So this is also opened as a smart object. I'm going to select the move tool, hit shift. So we are copying it to this layer. Boom. So now it's here. Now typically what I'll do with this layer, it's what I use to get contrast, and I use it as a soft light, as an overlay. Now that we're not going to use it in the foreground, but I really like what it has done to the Milky Way here with almost no work at all. Just gets natural contrast, starts to bring out the colors. Now the thing is about that on this layer, I'm gonna go into the smart object, which now that opens into Adobe Camera Raw, and we're gonna take this, we are going to get a little crazy with it, where we're going to put a lot of contrast in it. Brighten it up. Add some dehaze to bring some of that detail and local contrast out. I might have to take care of some of these items here when we bring it back in. Let's see how this goes with that. So I'll say okay, takes it back in. See, that's added some color through here, and it's got some good contrast going. You know what, I want to go back, I want to do one other thing. We get a lot of contrast up in this dark area. I want to remove a little bit of that out up there, so I'm going to go back into the Adobe Camera Raw by going and adding just with a gradient, we'll reduce some of the contrast, but mainly brighten it up. We'll see what we end up with right up here. That's probably a bit heavy. That's going to be a bit heavy. So let's pull a little bit out of that. Let's see what it looks like. Well, yeah, we'll leave that contrast. We'll leave that contrast in there and just leave that. How's that corner looking? A little bit bright. Well, we can deal with that later. Okay, so I'm going to say okay for that. So we'll accept that, see what that does. Okay. Boom. Now, of course, we don't want all that heavy contrast in here. It makes it look terrible. So what we're going to do here, just go to select the sky. Select sky. We'll make that our layer on that. Now the foreground can still use a little bit of contrast. That's all right. We can do that in this right here. So anyway, that's kind of my step 2 before I go on with, you know, any close detailed. But this is starting to get there as it is.